So welcome back. So we're going through the Principles of Human Misjudgment by Charlie Munger. And today we're going through a really important tendency that are a trick that our mind plays on us. Because this tendency might stop us from doing really important things. And it makes us misweight negative experience from positive ones. This might place trick on our minds that we stop in because of adversity, rather than seeing all the success that we've had. So let's go into it. This one is called deprival superreaction tendency. Super complicated name, but if we simplify it, we can call it the pain of loss tendency. Why is this important? Well, because it might make you do some stupid things, and it's really important if you have a business or if you do some type of investments. So let's get into it. What is this tendency? It basically means that it's much more painful to lose $10 than it is to gain $10. It might be 5 or 10 times more painful to lose $10 than to make $10. And Charlie, he makes the example of if a man has a $10 million investment account. In his wallet he has $300 and he loses a $100 bill. He will be super irritated for this experience of losing the $100 bill. But it is a minor detail compared to his investment portfolio. And if your investments are smaller, even if you have, let's say, 10,000 in your investment account, and you lose a $100 bill, it's not that big of a deal. But it will feel really, really painful doing that. So it basically means that small losses feels much worse than gains. And if we apply this in a business situation, let's say you get 5 new customers in 1 month. Feels good, it feels normal, and you feel happy about life getting these new customers, but one of them asks for a refund. It might feel much more painful than gaining the actual first clients in the first place, because you start doubting your own capacity, your own product, and maybe something wrong with you, and it feels you need to actually see this money go back from your bank account into the other person's bank account again. That will feel very, very painful. So in business, we will experience this all the time. It's totally natural. But if we don't know it, if we think that something is wrong, and we think that feeling of the loss is accurate, then we might stop doing it altogether because we think it's too painful. Or let's say we have 100 happy customers, and then we have 1 customer complaint, and then we think something is wrong with our product or our offering. We tend to weigh the negative much, much higher than the positive. Also in investments, this is true. Let's say you have an investment account and it goes up 10% 1 year. But in any given month, it can go down 1, 2, or 3%. The chance is that decline will feel much more painful than the actual 10% increase. And this is totally illogical. And I think that this tendency keeps a lot of people out of the market and out of business because they cannot deal with that emotional pain. But for example, Warren Buffett, he has said sometime that he really likes volatility, because if the market goes down, if his favorite stock goes down, it's amazing. It's like it's for sale, It's like if your partner or your wife, she goes into a Louis Vuitton store and it's 50% off, she would be so happy. The same is for Warren Buffett. If the market goes down, then he is there buying. And this principle works in any area of life. It works for relationships, love life, opportunity, status, or any other valued thing. If we have it and then we lose a little bit of it, it will feel much more painful than gaining it in the first place. Also, if we expect something and then we're not getting it, it will feel like we lost it. If we expect to be promoted at work and then we don't get it, someone else get it, it will feel super painful. So when are people using this against us to manipulate us? This is something we must investigate so we don't fall for this trap. Well, let's look at the first example, casinos. If someone goes into a casino and loses money, it will be a very painful experience, and they will be sucked in because they want to win back what they just lost. And that will cause a spiral of losses. And Charlie Munger, he writes that in slot machines, they produce a lot of lemon bar results, so that people feel that when their results coming up, that they almost won, that they're just one little detail from winning, and that makes them feel that they lost, and to trigger this tendency to trigger pain, so that they play again to try to win again. So, but they never won. They just purposefully produce this result to make people think that they almost won, to make them play more and more. Charlie, he also makes the example, if two neighbors, let's say one neighbor has a 180-degree view of the ocean. The other neighbor plants one tree that limits this view with 1 degree. This might probably create a fight between the neighbors, and they will be now enemies. And probably the fact that you are now enemy with your neighbor is much worse than the actual tree in the first place. So you see how this can create totally illogical reactions and behaviors from us. Charlie also writes the example that if a person has a business that is becoming a failure, they're about to lose the business, they are very, very likely to pour more and more money into that business in order to save what they have invested in the first place, rather than just cutting their losses. Because people have a really difficult fact with seeing that they have a loss. It's the same thing with Charlie writes about why people don't sell their Berkshire Hathaway stock, because they don't want to see their amount going down in their investment account. They cannot see that number go down. They want to keep it there. And when we couple this together, if we have people in different groups of different ideologies in politics, for example, or some other ideology, and we see that people have this tendency, this can create a lot of stupid behavior among people. Let's say one group from one ideology are here, and they are super scared of losing one member to someone else. So they're very, very frightened to see people lose the belief systems of that ideology. So they want to keep them very, very strong, the belief systems. Because if they would lose members of this ideology, it will feel like a loss to the group. It would feel like a loss of identity or their group. We can see this play out in politics, for example, that people, they're very difficult to think objectively and to take objective, smart decisions about things, because they are so clouded by their own beliefs and want to protect their own group or their own ideology. So, what can we learn from this tendency? We can remind ourselves, if we have a small loss that feels painful, that it is not the end of the world. And that's actually a natural part of the process of having a business, of doing investments. It will go up and down, like Warren Buffett says. It will be good years, it will be bad years. It will be good months, it will be bad months in business. That's totally natural, how it is. And we should not let that pain stopping us from doing these things, because having a business or doing investments, that can be one of the most financially rewarding things you can do, And we can also make sure that the fear of loss, of a small loss, for example, in relationships or among neighbors, that don't cause big fights or makes us enemies with someone else, because that would be much worse than the actual small loss in the first place, like we saw with the neighbor planting the tree, for example. A super small detail that caused them to be enemies, and that probably ruined much more than the actual tree in the first place. So the next one, number 15, is social proof tendency. This is also a super important one, because it says that we basically imitate people around us. So we need to be very thoughtful with who we spend time with. Because if we would find ourselves in a group of people, let's say one person, he finds new friends in school, for example, and it turns out that they do drugs or drink too much alcohol or do shoplifting or some other bad thing. That might put him on a super bad direction in life, without him thinking about that in the first place. So this is really, really important, because this tendency can really make or break us. And Charlie writes about one author, Judith Rich Harris. She has made some research that young people have like a super respect for their peers rather than for their parents. And Charlie says that then it makes sense to put more emphasis on who your children spend time with than their actual behavior themselves. Because if they spend time with high quality people, they will also turn out to be a high quality person. But if they spend time with people who do stupid things, then they will most likely also do stupid things. Charlie says there have been many, many studies, and you've probably seen YouTube videos of this, where, for example, one person enters an elevator and there's 10 people standing there facing one direction, then the new person will most likely also imitate the others and stand in that direction, even though it doesn't really make sense. So we basically tend to do what others do and not think so much about if it's a smart decision or not. And Charlie, he writes in the book, probably this has worked evolutionary, because if we follow the group, if we do what seems to be accepted in the group, or follow the herd, so to speak, then we're more likely to survive and thrive. And for example, if you are in a city and you're supposed to go to a big concert in one city, and then you see all these people going in one direction, you will probably also follow their direction, end up where the concert is. But in more complicated situations, like which relations to have, for example, which friends to have, or who you should spend time with, then it's much more delicate. Then you need to think more thoughtful about this. And Charlie, he says that when this tendency is coupled or combined with the pain of loss tendency, then much damage can be made. Imagine, for example, that members of one group, they see the other members hate another group. Then it's very likely that they will do the same. And then we'll have two groups of people who hate each other. So how can you use this principle? Well, if you work in a company, for example, and you see one employee do something really unethical against the company, they're stealing from the company or something, then you will need to not spend time with that person or change workplace, Because if people start to do bad things around you, you will be likely to be sucked in. You need to remove yourself from that situation. This principle or tendency also says that we should choose the people we spend time with wisely. And Monish Pabrai, who was a friend, who used to hang out with and be a friend with Charlie Munger, he really put this principle in place, because he says that the people you spend time with, their behavior will rub off on you. So he says that if you keep one friendship from the past just to be nice to that person, but they're doing something unethical or some weird behavior, that might have detrimental effects on your life, especially if you're young, in your 20s. So especially there, put a lot of attention into this one and spend time with and emulate high quality individuals. And Monish Pabrai, he made sure to use this. So he, for example, became friends with Charlie Munger, and then he became friends with all of Charlie Munger's friends. One interesting aspect of this is that high quality friends, or people who are better than us, for example, in an area, they can be quite intense to be around, because then we're constantly reminded of the gap between them and us. So it will feel kind of stressful to be around them. It might feel much more relaxing and nice to be with people who are not as good, for example, or where we're the best in our field. But someone said that if you're the best one in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to surround yourself with people who are better than you. And that's awesome, but it also is intense. But we should still make the effort to spend time with these people, because it will force us to improve ourselves. When we are in that group where people are better than us, we will feel that we need to perform in order to be part of the group. So it's a really psychological trick we can do on ourselves that drives performance. But if we are in a less high quality group where we are the best, where in our field. Then we might unconsciously try to dumb ourselves down or hide our performance or mimic their behavior in order to be part of the group. And this all happens subconsciously, so you're not thinking about this. So even though, in my experience, if it's uncomfortable being with people who are more skilled than you are or who have better results, make the effort. Pay the price is being uncomfortable in that situation. And I can see that a lot of results that I have reaped have come from that. Paying the price of spending time with really smart, high quality individuals. And that's the price we want to pay. We don't want to pay the price that comes later from spending time with those low quality people who maybe have some character flaw or something, because that price will be much more high to pay in the end. Also, if you spend time in the group of less quality individuals, if you then, for example, at your work, you have a shot of a promotion or something, or one big opportunity comes up, probably you won't get that because you will feel like a fraud. You will feel like you're not good enough to be in that situation. But if you have spent time with all of these high quality individuals who are better than you, then probably you will feel better suited to be in that situation, because you will kind of borrow the confidence from the others, or you will have improved yourself to be ready for that situation. And you would also start to dress and talk and walk like these individuals. And that will prepare you for these opportunities. That's another reason why that's important to spend time with these people. This reminds me of something Jim Rohn said. He said that when we choose a workplace or what we want to work with, he says you should ask yourself the question, who am I becoming here, not what am I getting here? Because the workplace or the what you will be doing all day, that will shape who you become, basically. And the people you surround yourselves with there, you will become one of them. And probably the social tendency, like this tendency we're talking about, is contributing a lot to that. So you see how powerful this tendency is and how important it is to use it. Now when you know this information, to couple it with thinking about measuring different options against each other. And using that to spend time with high quality individuals rather than lower quality. So, because that in itself will have a big impact on your life. So, hope you got one or two ideas out of this video. So I'm learning so much from teaching them to you. I'm doing this to pound in the message myself and starting to think in these ways and using them more in my everyday life, in decision making. And I hope that you can get one or two ideas out of them as well at the same time. Because if you do, you will do less stupid mistakes and more high quality decisions. And then your quality of life should increase. So enjoy and see you in the next video.